I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking about emotional eating. Many times when we're on the fertility journey, we may have been told to improve our fertility that we need to lose weight. And obviously, if we could lose weight, we'd already would have done it. It's easier said than done. So excited for you to listen to today's episode. Really, it's not about a diet. It's about really how do you dig into the emotional side of these things and why you are struggling to lose weight. Let's go and let's get into the episode. Hey there, I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile and your host. I believe the functional approach is the first step for anyone struggling with infertility, and my aim is to help you get pregnant naturally. Today, I'm welcoming Tricia Nelson to the podcast, and we're digging into how emotional eating impacts the fertility journey. Tricia Nelson is an internationally acclaimed author, transformational speaker, and emotional eating expert. She lost 50 pounds by identifying and healing the underlying causes of her emotional eating. She has spent over 30 years researching the hidden causes of the addictive personality. She's the author of #1 best-selling book, Heal Your Hunger, 7 Simple Steps to End Emotional Eating Now. Hey, Tricia, excited to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Awesome. Can you share your journey and really how you came to do this work?
You bet. I, was obsessed with food from as far back as I can remember. So food was always an obsession for me. I like to eat. I like to cook. I love to serve food to other people, go out to dinner, you name it. I was all over it. And so it was really just something I love to do. And that wouldn't have been a problem, except that I really hated my weight issue. So the food that I ate definitely stuck to me. And I had, by age 21, I was 50 pounds overweight. And that was a miserable experience for me. I hated my fat. I had a roll in my tummy that I would scrunch up and imagine cutting off, like you cut fat off the side of a steak. Or, I thought about getting some disease where I'd automatically lose weight. So I was pretty desperate, because I tried diets and, diets work for a time. You're all excited, like I'm going to do this. But then after a couple of weeks, it gets so hard. And it's like, oh my God, I can't possibly go another day without my favorite food. So I would always blow it and always go back to eating, put the weight back on. So I was a yo-yoer, like a yo-yo dieter. And I had like 5 different sizes of pants in my closet because I never knew what size I'd be. So that's really how it went for me. And, no matter what I tried, and I didn't just do exercise and diets. I mean, I did like therapy and self-help books. So I was really at it. Like I was really giving a good college try. But I always just was back in the same place. So it wasn't until I was shown I met somebody who, it really helped me see that my issue went deeper. Like I was emotionally eating. I was using food to numb my emotions, even though I thought I just like food, So I started to look at it from a new perspective and realize there's more to it. And I started really taking care of my stress and learning new ways to cope with my emotions. And this all helped me turn the boat around, so to speak. So I was able to lose the 50 pounds and keep it off and really change my life. So it's been an amazing journey. And then I started working with the person who helped me, the person who mentored me. We started working together to help others. So for decades, I've been really researching this problem, which I find to be the hidden key to a lot of people's food struggles, food and weight struggles. And so, and more recently, about 5 years ago, I founded Heal Your Hunger, which is really a way to show people systematically, step by step, how to overcome emotional eating. I really codified what I did to heal and what I've taught so many other people to do to heal. And people get amazing results from it, and they don't have to diet. Like that's the point, is they don't have to do crazy diets or impossible exercise programs, but they can still lose weight and in a much more sustainable way.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think many people on the fertility journey, they've been told, in order to do IVF, they have to lose weight. And going through IVF in itself and going through the fertility journey and struggling perhaps is stressful in itself. And then being told, sorry, you now need to lose weight, which, body shaming and all of that piece, which adds this extra pressure. And I don't know. So this topic is really important for us to talk about today, because so many people then they just feel hopeless, kind of like, obviously
Yes.
if we could lose the weight, we would.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it just exacerbates it. My experience is the more I would try to lose weight, like really try, the more it eluded me, like I went in the other direction because I got all messed up around it. And that's why I'm so not a fan of diets, because, if you don't go deeper, if you don't do it in a more systematic way, and really get to the underlying causes, you're still craving the food, but you're denying yourself the food. And then you're in this push pull. And like you said, there's all this guilt involved, and it just gets really heavy really fast.
I remember doing that because I've got food sensitivities. I'm on this very restrictive diet where I couldn't eat all these things, and I came off of it, and and I'm not a binger. I literally wanted to go to our local donut store, get like a box of 24 donuts and just like eat them and just gorge myself on stuff. The same when I've gone to retreats where they're like, oh, you can't have any. This just feels very restrictive. It then makes me want to go the opposite. Listen to
totally.
It's so quiet. I want to listen to like loud music, binge on crap because it felt like I was being deprived.
Yeah.
Which the lifestyle I live now is not about deprivation. It's about really finding the food that really is right for your body. So why did 98% of all diets fail?
Well, to me, it's a lot of what we're talking about. It's like food and weight. I mean, people gain weight not just because they like food. It's stress. It's stress eating. It's having maladapted coping mechanisms. Like eating is their coping mechanism. Habit as well. It's something we've been doing for a long time. So if you go on a diet and you strip away all your favorite foods, like the things that you rely on to get through a stressful day or to reward yourself at the end of a hard week, if you take all that away, you're like feeling empty. Like you're empty and you're like, what do I do now? And if you don't have a replacement for the food, if you haven't gained a new coping tools, if you don't have a new way to cope with stress or de-stress, you're going to need that food that you just got rid of. You're going to need it at some point, and you're going to be craving it, and you can't resist a craving for very long. It's like it grows and grows. It becomes a monster that's choking you, and you just want to eat, so it's really important, to not just do the deprivation thing, not just take away all your favorite foods, but start dealing with, why we are dependent on these foods, why we're craving sugar and carbs, and how can we better take care of ourselves so we don't feel that emptiness inside.
It's interesting with the habit piece. I know, like, after working all day long, you work long hours. And then to me, at the end of the day, for myself, it's a little treat of like maybe watching a show or reading a book. And then I'm like, ooh, I'll have a small bowl of chips. Now they're organic and gluten-free, and I'm like, and I literally sit there, I'll stand there and listen to myself, Sarah, are you hungry? And I actually say to myself, well, no, I'm not hungry, but you know what? Damn it, I've worked hard. I want to have my little treat. And I'll say,
that
I'm
reward,
an orange or have something else. But, and then I just decided like enough's enough. Like we don't need to have that food as the reward, which a lot of it is, right? We go out to restaurants. I've been, here in Canada where it's been hard to go to restaurants, but yeah, it's interesting that we use that as the reward piece. So, how do we differentiate between that emotional hunger and physical hunger? Like, how do we really check in?
Yeah. Well, I love that you do that for yourself, that you're like, am I really hungry? I love that, because that's an important conversation to have, because typically we're not. It's emotional hunger and not physical hunger. It helps me. I have something that I recommend to my clients called 3-meal magic, which is eating 3 meals with nothing in between. And that in between time is when we usually eat the snacky foods, the chips, the chocolate, the nuts, the things that can add up really fast, And so I find it really helpful to have, if I'm going to eat, make it a meal, and 3 times a day, make the meals satisfying and good fats, good proteins, good veggies, and make it count. Put it on a plate, sit down and eat it, enjoy it, make it substantial, enjoy it, but then close the kitchen down. No more snacking. And what that does is it enables you to start getting in touch with yourself and your emotions. Typically, emotional eaters they're afraid of feeling hunger. Like hunger feels scary. Like, oh my God, and I think the reason is because as kids, we typically started at a young age to use food in an emotional way. And when it worked as a kid, like if you had a messed up childhood and food's kind of what got you by, the food is in your mind and in your subconscious, it's like saving your life. It's like, this is getting me through this childhood, and it's not that everybody has a bad childhood, but if there's some kind of neural pathways that are, worn, that we're following this idea, this subconscious belief that eating is keeping us grounded, it's keeping us safe, it's keeping us satisfied. So to feel hunger sets off a little bit of an alarm, like I'm starving, and that can lead to the binging and overeating. And so I think it's really important to realize that if we do feed ourselves 3 times a day, that's why I have an issue sometimes with intermittent fasting, because people who are emotional eaters, to go too long without eating does signal that alarm, which can lead to binging. And I just don't like to be uncomfortably hungry, but a little hunger in the 4 or 5 hours between breakfast and lunch and dinner is a good thing, because it enables me to acclimate to some hunger. And what's really under the hunger are feelings. Whereas if I'm snacking all day long, I don't know what a feeling is. Like I have no idea what my emotional state is, because I'm numbed out. I mean, foods are good. That's why carbs and sugars are the things we usually reach for, because they numb us out the most, and they give us that serotonin hit also. So it's just really important to know that if you can do the 3-meal plan, you cut out all the snacky, high calorie foods that cause trouble and weight gain is what I mean by trouble, and binge eating and unconscious eating. But also you can start sort of getting, you sort of retrain yourself. So you retrain yourself. Like if I get really hungry at 10 a.m., I can have that conversation. Am I really hungry? And I'll be like, not really, because I know I had a good breakfast. Like I had a good breakfast. I'm not messing with my food. I'm eating good, nutritious meals. And so then I can say, okay, it's probably not physical. What is it? And then I can determine what it really is. But if I'm snacking all day, I have not one clue. So I find that to be really useful, and it's grounding and it's self-caring. Like my body knows it's going to get fed again. I'm not going to do erratic diety type things. I'm going to feed it on a regular schedule. My body gets super accustomed to, the rhythm of that. And it feels good. Like it feels really self-caring.
Yeah. And when you do have more of the fats and proteins, I just find the cravings start to go away, and it's not as bad. 'Cause I used to be like stop the car, I need to eat now, I'm going to pass out, like hangry,
Yeah.
like mood swings, irritable, because the blood sugar was, bopping around all day long. And as I started to have, fats and proteins, and then like stopping to kind of see what else is going on underneath there. Feeling that hunger is a really good tip too, right? To be able to feel it, and we're not going to, pass out at that point. We can, obviously you don't want to get to that shaky, you've gone too far, but a little bit of feeling, a little bit of hunger is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's when we're not in reaction mode to that hunger and we know we're going to eat. When you eat on a regular schedule, your body starts to it doesn't panic. It doesn't panic. It's like, no, we're going to eat. We're okay. We're okay. We're going to be okay. But we can also start identifying some emotions. Like sometimes, when I start digging into it, turns out there's a phone call I'm afraid to make, or I got to do my taxes, or there's something that I so don't want to do. And I distract with food. Like I'm going to go, I got to go check the refrigerator. And it's like, no, you don't. You need to just go through the uncomfortable feelings of doing your taxes, which is like the number one thing you hate to do. So,
And what about, people that in the middle of the night where they want to head down to the fridge, like at 2 a.m?
Well, that's, that can come from not eating enough for dinner, obviously. But it can also come, when we're busy. Overeaters tend to be overdoers. So we're super busy. And part of that is to distract again from our feelings. Emotional eaters are emotional eaters because they don't want to feel their emotions. We've been on, we've been in full flight mode for years, trying to get away from uncomfortable feelings. And so at nighttime, we're not so busy. Obviously, nighttime eating is a big problem for emotional eaters. Anytime after 5 p.m., it starts getting a little harder. And, but that's when things quiet down. That's when we're not running around, just working off of adrenaline. When it's quiet, we start to feel more feelings. We might even remember something disturbing from the day or something somebody said that pissed us off, or, we start to ruminate. And so that can lead to, uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable, just feeling not good in our skin. And that's oftentimes when we want to eat as well. We just, it's quiet. It's quiet in the middle of the night. And it's like, I want to distract from that.
Yeah, to numb out. Mm-hmm.
Totally.
And so what's the number one weight loss mistake that you see?
I'll give you two. So you get two for the price of one. So one of them is weighing yourself. Okay. Like, my experience with weighing ourselves is we're way too obsessed with it, like with the number on the scale. And it's really a trap. If we give the scale the power to make us feel good because it says a number we like, we also have to give it the power to make us feel bad, to give us a number we don't like. And it's a setup in my experience. What happens is when it's something we like, we're like, woohoo. But then we're like, oh, I have room to eat. I got some wiggle room. It's subconscious. This isn't always conscious, but it's tricky. So we use it as an excuse to eat because we all of a sudden have some space. But if it tells us something we don't like, and we've been going to the gym or we've been super conscious what we're eating, and the needle hasn't moved, it's often like customary for us to say, screw it. What's the point? Like, what's the point? So when we're too tight into that number, it's a setup, and it can really trigger us to eat. So I just say, from your pants, how your pants fit, put the scale away, weigh yourself once a month if you must. But don't sit there and obsess on the number on the scale. Our weight fluctuates. Like, I don't want to be on this roller coaster ride. If we focus on not turning to food for our emotions, if we start dealing with our stress, and we can talk about the self-care part of it, but if we're not emotionally eating, we're not going to be gaining weight, and chances are we're going to lose weight.
Yeah, I agree with the scale piece. It's sort of, it becomes, you're going there for affirmation, or you're there to beat yourself up, kind of like,
totally. It's a setup.
It's set up to fail. Exactly. And you had two.
Oh, so the other one is skipping meals. Sorry. The other one is skipping meals. So, and which is big right now with the fasting, intermittent fasting is eating only 2 meals. My experience is it's great. The science is there, on paper, but if you're an emotional eater, my experience is slow and steady, 3 meals a day wins the race, because when you do the erratic starving thing where you're not eating for 15 or 16 hours, it's erratic. Your emotions get erratic. You're not thinking quite as straight as clearly sometimes when you're too hungry. Again, for the emotional eater, for other people, some people it works great for some emotional eaters, it can work great. But my experience with emotional eaters is they often use it as a diet hack, and that's doomed for failure. Anytime we're trying to hack the system and get quick weight loss or kind of get some way of losing weight that doesn't include, going deeper and dealing with why we're hungry in the first place, it's going to fail ultimately. And the other thing, my experience with that kind of setup is that it does trigger alarms, kind of like I'm starving alarms. And emotional eaters use it because they're afraid of being in the kitchen. They're afraid of eating because if once they start eating, they overeat. And so it's really important that people realize there's a better way of dealing with their fear of food than just starving yourself and not going to the kitchen. Like that's really not a solution, basically. Like a solution is dealing with your relationship with food, healing your relationship with food. So you're not afraid of food. So you can eat and stop, and I promise it's possible. Like you don't have to just stay away from the kitchen for long, long periods of time.
Yeah, even for fertility too, going that long can mess with your hormones. We don't recommend that
Yeah.
exactly. And then you see the person that it's interesting when you look at people's health histories, and some people aren't even eating a lot, or if they do eat, they're eating one meal at the end of the day, and then they're having a weight issue.
Yeah, no, it's really crazy. I like to think of it as, how would you feed your sweet baby daughter? Like how would you would you say to your daughter, we're going to do intermittent fasting now? No, you'd be like, that's crazy, or would you do the one meal a day plan, or would you do the, beach body workout? you know and so, like, think of it. I mean, we are that small sweet child, that probably didn't get properly nourished and nurtured. And that's our job now. Our job is to nurture ourselves. But if we're still doing crazy hacks around weight loss, it's going to backfire on us. Like, do what would make your sweet daughter feel nurtured and cared for.
I love that. And so let's kind of dig into the emotional reasons for this emotional eating. What are we typically? What are the ones you're seeing that we're typically trying to push down and bury with food?
So I'll start with the PEP test. So PEP is an acronym, PEP, and that acronym is a good way to start making the connection between your eating and your emotions. So, instead of thinking what unhealthy foods do to us, which we know what unhealthy foods do to us, let's think instead about what they do for us, because this is what's driving us to eat. Okay. So the first P in PEP stands for painkiller. We eat unhealthy foods as a way to numb out. We've talked about that, like just sort of taking away the pain. And there's plenty of pain in life. A parent dying, a kid who's dysregulated, not getting pregnant. There's all kinds of things that bring us emotional pain. And we tend to reach for food to smooth over that pain. It kind of softens the edges of life. Okay. But the problem is that makes us gain weight, because when we're eating, when we're not hungry, obviously that's going to be a problem. So that's the first P. The second P is escape. Overeaters tend to be over feelers and thinkers. So we kind of scare ourselves. We think about like worst case scenarios. What's going to happen? We think black and white, like I'm never going to get pregnant, or I'm always going to be trying to get pregnant, or, our minds go into scary places and they kind of scare us. And oftentimes it gets really exhausting. So we want to just escape our brains with eating. Okay. I'm going to get my favorite food, sit in front of the TV and just eat. So we use it kind of as an escape. And the last P in PEP stands for punishment, which seems counterintuitive because we use food like as a reward so often. But if you're somebody who goes overboard and eats and then basically, feels crappy afterwards because you ate too much and you ate the wrong foods and now you have gut issues or whatever, ton of gas, it's like, why did I do that? What was that about? And my experience is that as over feelers, we feel guilty very easily. We're very sensitive and we can beat ourselves up really easily. And so we use food sometimes to beat ourselves up. We mean for it to be a reward, but when we go too far, it ends up being kind of a form of self-abuse. And so we got to look at that. Like, what's going on? What am I feeling guilty about? Or what am I afraid of? Or what's hurting? Like, what's hurting? Let's address that. And it's just it's an important conversation to have that we're not used to having, or used to just saying, oh, I'm hungry. Like, I want chocolate.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, painkiller, escape, and then punishment. Is it
Yep.
interesting with this escape piece with, a lot of overthinkers, worrying, and then like that catastrophizing, ruminating, especially on the fertility journey. So all this coupled in, and then wait a minute, I'm going to go to my comfort side of things. So what about that? Like the comfort, the comfort, the food is your comfort place. And how do you switch out to something else to give you comfort?
Well, yeah. And that's why 98% of all diets fail is we don't have something else in play. We don't have something at the ready. And so we go back to what we know, which is eating. And so my experience is we have to start first thing in the morning. Late in the day is too late, and nighttime is definitely too late. We have to start first thing in the morning, nurturing ourselves, filling our cup. We have to fill our cup, fill our well. So we're giving from fullness, not from deficit, And so meditation, prayer, spiritual readings, walking, yoga, breathing exercises, things that can get us centered and calm. I call it putting money in your spiritual bank account. Make deposits first thing in the morning, and you can take withdrawals throughout the day. But if we don't make that deposit, we're in the red all throughout the day. And that's when we reach for food, snacky foods, quick energy foods, grazing foods. We do that when we don't have anything, any stores left. And so it's really important not to just pop out of bed and answer the phone or look on Instagram or, whatever. Really important that we have some sacred time to fill our cup, get connected, get connected with source. And then we can be more grounded throughout the day. I mean, stress is a big cause of stress eating. So we've got to do something to lessen our stress, and having a morning routine of calm and quiet is going to be a big help.
Yeah, I like that with the stress piece. Obviously, it's, everywhere we turn, there's stress, but it's like, it's basically putting yourself first is not selfish, and hashtag self-care,
Yes.
all of that. And so if we're in a, so how do we then, in times of we're running to the fridge, we maybe didn't fill our cup the whole entire day, things got ahead of us. Like, what do we do when, how do we have that check-in before we head for something that's going to make us feel, that punishment, that like garbage afterwards?
Yeah. So it's also hard to do these things on our own. So having community is really important. Being around people who are doing self-care. Self-care is hard. It's hard to get, especially for women. It's hard to put in our, in our day. We are so used to giving. We are so used to caretaking. And when we do take time for ourselves, not only is it not selfish, but it's actually the best way to give to other people, because people are going to get the best version of us. When we're harried and stressed and running on adrenaline, we're not going to be our best, and we're not going to be that nice. That's when I get snippy and snappy, is when I'm tired and stressed, and I'm out of stores. I got nothing left. And so people aren't getting the best version of me. So the kindest, most loving thing I can do for other people is to take that time, fill my cup, and then give from that place. So, so important. But the community part is really important too, because when you're around other people who are creating self-care habits and affirming that self-care is important, it's easier to let go of those voices that haunt us saying, oh, I should be doing such and such, or I should be taking care of so and so. It's really helpful for changing our habits. It's really hard to change. Food, in my experience, addictive eating is the hardest addiction to overcome, because you have to eat. We have to eat. It's not like alcohol where you can put the plug in the jug. You have to eat. And so it's tricky. You have to be really clear and in touch with your emotions and do the self-care practices in order to have that fine balance with food, where food's nourishing you, but you're not having it, making choices that you feel bad about.
So what's your top tip to just starting? Like, how do we say this is, we're setting our intention of putting ourselves first, addressing emotional eating. How do we ease our way into this? Or is it a Band-Aid, we're ripping it off, we're just going, hardcore? What are we doing?
Well, no, I think it takes time. It takes, one step at a time. I would say start with subtraction. Okay. So where in your schedule can you take something off? We're so used to putting things on our plate. Let's take something off our plate and see, if that helps, because I promise it will, like, where can we delegate? Emotional eaters tend to be caretakers. So we do a lot of rescuing and caretaking, because that's sort of our identity, especially if we grew up in a dysfunctional home where there's alcoholism or some other kind of dysfunction. We get super responsible. We take on other people's problems. And so where are we maybe doing a little more than we need to be doing? Boundaries are a little bit hard for us. Where can we set some boundaries? Like, even with our kids, like people who have kids can often, I don't have kids, but people who do have kids often do their kids' homework because they don't want them to not get an A. It's like they're over responsible, or they're a helicopter parent. And it's just really important that we start doing only what's ours to do and no more, because the more is where we get into trouble. That's what makes us feel burdened and stressed. And so look at your schedule. Where can you carve out some time for yourself? Or what can you subtract so that you have more time for yourself? I think that's really important. The other thing is, in terms of my work, I have an emotional eating quiz on my website. So if somebody's not sure if they're an emotional eater, they can take that quiz and find out. They can even find out if they're a food addict. It's a spectrum. On the low end is emotional eating. On the high end is food addiction. So if you take that, it's like a 2-minute quiz. It's on my website, which is healyourhunger.com. If you take that quiz, you'll actually find out where you are on the spectrum. And I think that's really important to kind of give you a bearing of where you are and of course I give people steps to take after that. But I think that, just kind of getting, learning where you are on that spectrum is super helpful as well.
And we'll have a link to the Heal Your Hunger website so you can take that quiz. And yeah, I remember when I was doing my coaching training, there was a woman that came on and she said her gremlin or her inner critic was misresponsibility. Literally, it just followed her everywhere. She had to be the responsible one. And it was just so heavy because she could not give herself a break, couldn't set boundaries. Everything was, yes, I'm last, until she actually identified that, wait a minute, this is, obviously there's some trauma from childhood for her as well. And being able to identify that. Okay. And so if you can share with us, is there anything you're obsessed with right now, be it a book, a website, a documentary, an app, anything you're like, ooh, I'd love to recommend that.
I just got a book called Hooked by Michael Moss. He wrote Sugar, Fat, something else a while back, 5 years ago, but he's just come out with a new book called Hooked. I have not read it yet, so I can't recommend it. But I'm looking forward to reading it. He's a investigative reporter. And so he writes about how the food industry is basically trying to get us hooked, bottom line, it's no joke.
Absolutely. Yep. And is there a success story you'd like to share with us?
Oh, so many. So many. I have women of all different ages in my programs. I have a mother of 5. She had 2 kids and then she adopted 3 sisters from the foster care system. She has all of them doing 3-meal magic now. So they all are on that plan more or less, but she said it brings a lot of calm and peace. Her kids meditate now. Hannah's the mom. Hannah meditates and her kids are now modeling her, and they play. When they're playing in their room, they're playing meditation. It's really the cutest thing in the world. So, she's modeling self-care. She's modeling self-care and people are getting the message. And I think that's, probably the best thing as a mom you can give to your kids is that mama takes care of herself.
I agree. So you have got a 5-day quit sugar challenge coming up soon, and I'll have the link in the show notes for that. So what can they expect in this quit sugar challenge? Sounds scary, but maybe not.
Well, that's the scary, a lot of people do find it scary. They know they need to quit sugar because it's kind of kicking their ass and they're like, they don't feel good. They don't have energy. They just, it's just, they're not sleeping so well. So there's a lot of reasons why we might want to quit sugar. There's very few redeeming qualities to sugar. Sugar is one of the most addictive substances there is. It's been proven to be as addictive as heroin. So if sugar is a problem for you and you're sick of like quitting and then going back to it. That's why not only do I teach people how to get rid of sugar, like all the different names for sugar. By the way, there's 80 plus names for sugar. They change the names on the labels so that, they can put more in there without you realizing that's what they're doing. So all the different, reading labels, getting hip to where the sugar is hiding in your food, even foods at Whole Foods, or somewhere else that's healthy. So, I teach people literally how to get sugar out of their life and how to have yummy replacements. So I teach people, I give people tons of recipes so they can enjoy sugar-free eating by using stevia or monk fruit to sweeten things. I go sugar free, and yet I love sweet. So I still enjoy my food, my sweet foods. But I also do mindset calls as well, alongside of, the mechanics of quitting sugar. I do these morning mindset calls because there's a lot of fear that does come up, because more than anything, we're emotionally addicted to sugar, not just physically addicted to sugar. We use it as our coping tool, like we talked about. It's like people are like, how could I live without sugar? But I show you how to live without sugar, and I show you what to do about emotional eating so you can stopped. So you can actually quit, enjoy the replacement foods that are sweet and yummy, but won't make you feel physically addicted. And then I'll teach you how to get off the emotional addiction to these, ooey gooey, chewy foods. And that's so important. Without that emotional piece, it's really hard.
I love it. So definitely check out the 5-day quit sugar challenge. I'll have the link in the show notes. And any final thoughts on our topic today, Tricia?
No, just know that it's not about the food. When you're grappling with food or you want somebody to hand you a diet, it's not about the food. Like, let's take a journey deeper, see what it's about, because when you heal what it really is about, it makes your whole life better. Everything feels lighter and happier and more free. So you deserve that. You deserve to not be obsessed and struggle all the time.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your words of wisdom. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.